From Little League to the big leagues and everywhere in between. From one stage to another. Passion is my middle name. I'm J.J. Davis. This is In Focus. First off, here's hoping everyone had a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And our first guest of 2025, I've always said, you could meet this guy in the store, you could talk to this guy in a restaurant, anywhere, and you wouldn't know he's one of the top junior college football coaches in the country. Joining me right now, or sitting across the line of scrimmage on offense, because he was a quarterback, the head man at Iowa Western Community College, Scott Strohmeier. Happy holidays, Coach.
Oh, you too. I appreciate you having me.
Were they good?
They were. It was really just relaxing. You know, we stuck around here, but didn't really do too much, but needed a little bit of time just to unwind.
Unwind indeed. Now, if someone would have said, you would kick off a program, 16, 17 years ago, you would still be here 16, 17 years later. You would play in 6 national championship games, the last 4 in a row, and win 3 overall. What would Scott Strohmeier have said?
I mean, anytime I've taken a job, I've taken a job thinking that I could stay there forever. You know, I mean, I don't think you just want to have an approach of, I'm going to go there for 3 years and then I'm going to get a new job. But gosh, I mean, it's been unbelievable 16 years. You know, I never would have thought it. But here we are. It's a great school, great community, kind of growing on us a little bit. And, you know, we love it.
You talk about schools, you talk about communities. As coaching goes, resumes, you've only been at 4 places in over 25 years. And I think that says something about you.
Well, you know, like I said, so many people in this profession are looking, you know, at the next job.
That's right.
And
That's
you know,
right.
the next best thing. And
that's right.
Not every school that I was at did you have all the support that you always wanted, but you make it. I mean, it's coaching football, you know, and I think you make the most out of wherever you're at. And you know, I had a good run getting into it at Concordia. I was a young guy didn't go to school to coach. I was working in business field and
that's right.
stuck there and had an opportunity to take that job over when our head coach Shannon Curry left for Truman State, but I went with him. And then I got my first head coaching job at Nyack and then here.
You got your BA in business and then your master's in education. So who would have thunk it?
I know. I was going to start I was going to get in the business field or start some business. I didn't know what I wanted. I wouldn't always recommend this, but I went to school for football. And then I realized that you got to do that school thing too.
Oh, gee, that's a surprise. He went to school for football. I wonder if that's ever been mentioned before with anybody else.
Yeah. So you know, and then when I started getting in at Concordia St. Paul, I was there for a few years, maybe as a full-time coach. And in order to continue in the college or the Division II level, you have to have a master's because most places require you to teach. And so that's when I started my master's.
It all started for you in Watkins, Minnesota. I believe the definition when I looked it up, it was termed a village, maybe 1,000 people or more. What was that like?
It's small. I mean, we were 3 miles out of town and lived on Clear Lake. And, you know, I had a couple buddies my age that lived on our side of the lake. But I still remember biking into town. You know, for baseball practice or, you know, meeting up with some of the guys who lived in town and spend most of the day there and make sure I had to get home before mom or dad got home so I could feed the dogs or mow the lawn or do my chores. But we spent most of the time, I mean, just out on the lake. We had 3 guys and we found a way in the backyard to play baseball, basketball, or whatever.
I think of the song Jack and Diane, the best of times.
Yes, it was, you know, and you know, we still have the house. My sister has the house, so we try to go back there. It's changed a lot with the, you know, like your guys that you hang or that you know, the families, most of them are gone now or moved out, but there's still a few around whenever we get back that we got to go see.
You talk about growing up. Your parents, David and Patricia, or Dave and Pat, married in 1968, married for over 50 years, and it is said that your father was not one to sit still.
No, he wasn't. And like I said, both of them, you know, in today's day, not a lot of kids that get to have both parents, you know, throughout, and we were able to, and they worked hard. You know, I think that's where we got, all of us siblings got it, that, you know, we had to work, and if we wanted things, we had to find a way to do it. And so they kind of instilled that work ethic and, you know, what it takes to make it.
You had to find ways to support your mom, Patricia, Pat, a double lung transplant. Yep. How did that affect Scott Strohmeier?
Well, I mean, I still remember the day when we got the call, you know, but I don't know, just the fact, because we're dealing with it as well in a different way, but to see her at every sporting event, never missed one, high school, college, for all of us, and then you could see it kind of declining, you know, where it killed her not to be able to go to those games, or, you know, come up to Crookston and watch and spend the weekend or whatever. And then I was in college, but then when it was, I mean, we were given 20 plus years because of it, it wouldn't have happened, you know, if we didn't get that. And it's always hard because somebody had to go through pain and suffering for her to get 20 plus years. But, you know, I mean, that's what organ donation is about, you know, and if you can give your organs to someone to help them live a better life, I should say.
But you got a chance to watch your son play quarterback. Why am I not surprised? High school, college.
Yeah, so, well, you know, it was funny because my older brother Jim played quarterback, and so that's what I grew up like thinking, that's the position. You want to look up to your brother, your older brother, right? So I was, to be honest with you, I mean, I was almost put in that position when I got into school in 7th grade. We didn't play football. It was like, oh, here's another Strohmeier. He's got to play. He's going to be our quarterback.
Right.
And so I didn't have a choice, but that's the position I wanted to play. And then my younger brother played quarterback as well.
Mike.
All three of us went to Fergus Falls Community College and played for the same head coach.
That is crazy.
Yeah. I remember going to college when I was at Fergus. I was nervous because my brother started there for 2 years, and I'm like, what if I'm not good enough to play? But I ended up starting.
You were good enough. How many Hall of Fames you in?
I don't know who's counting, anyways, right? I mean, I got inducted in my high school Hall of Fame, Eden Valley Walk-ins, and then I got inducted into it's Minnesota State Community and Technical College.
That's right.
Got into that one. In University of Minnesota Crookston's
the Golden Eagles.
The Golden Eagles, and then the NJCA.
What's that, 4?
I think so, something like that.
Would you dethunk it all these years later?
No, I mean, never. And like I said in some of the speeches, I never played the game to try to get into a Hall of Fame. You know, I think part of it's, yes, it's cool that they think of you like that, right, but that was never the end goal. But obviously, some people, you might have made an impact somewhere if you got put into it.
We talk about impact. What's more important to you as a head football coach, the national titles or raising, nurturing young men?
Well, I think you got to go into raising and nurturing young men. I mean, and ultimately, if you do it the right way, wins and losses. Yes, the championships are unbelievable, and the reason the championships are unbelievable is you see the kids' face after how happy they are of all the work and hard work, and that was their end goal, and they reached it. You know, so they accomplished something. But you know, I think at this level, and people ask me why, you know, I've stayed at a 2-year school, and to be honest with you, you got to love. I love recruiting. That's at anywhere you go, right?
Right.
But to see guys move on to the next level that came in maybe under recruited, a little chip on their shoulder, maybe they had a little bit of you know, something in the past that they needed some help with, and then to see them go and be successful, and getting texts from them. You know, Perry on Winfrey sent a text from actually a FaceTime call from the locker room when he blocked the field goal for against Texas. I mean, those are the reasons you do it.
Perrion Winfrey went to Oklahoma. You've had a lot of guys go D1. You've had a number of guys just go to the various levels. In the end, who is Scott Strohmeier? Because I've always seen you as this low-key guy that you wouldn't know he's a head football coach. When I interview you, I got to turn the sound up because you're low-key. Who's Scott Strohmeier?
Yeah, I would like to say that I'm me as a person is the same as I'm a coach. I mean, I'm pretty level-headed. Obviously, there's times where you get worked up a little bit and things like that.
Just a little bit.
I think, and part of that maybe came from playing the position and of quarterback. Of you got to be calm in some bad situations. I've always told a quarterback, if you're driving a ship and the guy who's driving the ship and he's nervous, the rest of the people are nervous on the ship, right? But if you're not nervous, and you may be nervous, but you can't show that you're nervous. But just I would like to say I'm humble. I'm not. I know where I grew up. I'll never forget where I grew up. So I guess me.
Well, I've known you for a while because I work at IWCC Community College, and I just want to say it's an honor and always a pleasure to talk to you, Coach, because
I appreciate
he's really easy to talk to. It's Kate. Now, coming up next, another guy who I think's really easy to talk to, even though I haven't talked to him in decades. He's no doubting Thomas, that's for sure, on the other side. So it's the late 2000s. Yours truly hadn't done a play in over 15 years since, I believe, Scranton, Pennsylvania. The bug has bit me. I got to do a show. So I see 12 Angry Men at the Omaha Community Playhouse. And my first thought was, 12 guys, I got to have a shot. So I go into the basement. Long story short, I get the role of the foreman. And one of my scene partners is Juror 8, the Henry Fonda character, Thomas Becker, who I have always considered, one of the best, if not the best actor in Omaha. So sitting stage right to me, as we say, is Thomas Becker. How's that for an intro?
That's pretty cool. Oh, man, when you say things like the best actor in Omaha, oh, my goodness. That's very flattering because I've worked with some pretty outstanding actors, and I'll tell you what, we've got a community full of them. So yourself included, by the way. Which number were you, JJ? Was it like number 6?
I was the foreman.
But don't they give him a number?
I think like 1.
Okay, all right.
There are a lot of great actors in Omaha. As I've said, having lived around the country, I did a show in LA, the whole bit, but I'm not really any good. The talent here in Omaha is the best I've ever experienced in all my years and all the places that I've lived and worked and done theater. You're one of them.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I love being here.
What role haven't you played?
Oh, well, there are some roles I'm never going to play that that pass you by.
That's right, Thomas.
You wish. Yeah,
Age.
Exactly, man. I always, every young actor wants to play Hamlet. Right.
You've done Shakespeare on both coasts, correct?
Yeah.
How's that come about? Shakespeare, a guy from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. You end up doing Shakespeare in Washington, D.C. and on the left coast as well.
I started reading Shakespeare when you and I were kids, right? And we didn't have the Google machine.
That's right.
We had to read. And, well, my dad had been conned and Mom had been conned into buying this great books of the Western World collection.
The Western World.
Yeah, and I know. And in there they had some, pretty not very good copies of Shakespeare's work because they were the way they were paginated was all screwed up. But I managed to get a storyline out of there when I was a kid, and there was just enough in there to make me I could understand bits and pieces of it, but I was really curious to find out more about it, and then so I did.
You grew up Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Lincoln High School, the Patriots. Your mom, Gwen, a social worker, your dad, Dennis, as you mentioned. How did that influence you into becoming an actor?
I don't.
It just happened?
It just happened. Honestly, my dad was a teacher, middle school teacher. You know, and in Sioux Falls, we didn't have. We just had very little, you know, very little to get by on in those days. So
when did you get the bug?
I think I knew I wanted to be an actor from the time I was a little kid, watching other child actors on television, seeing that somebody got to do that.
What was your favorite show?
Oh, I loved shows like The Partridge Family, Flipper.
They called him Flipper.
Yeah. I mean, you look at it today and you go, what? But why are those kids so stupid? They go in the water and get into trouble every day, and their dolphin saves them. But when you're a kid and you see that, that's what you wish that, oh, that's a cool life.
When you're a kid, everything's a wow moment.
Yeah.
Everything's bigger. And then as you get older, you realize it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there weren't a lot of opportunities in Sioux Falls for.
But you became a teacher as well.
Yeah.
How'd that happen? Just because you grew up in that atmosphere?
I saw that was one of the things I knew I would be comfortable in, a world I would be comfortable in, because my father and my stepmother were teachers, and I saw what that world was like. And I loved learning. I really did. So I thought, well, maybe this will be a good fit.
Well, you also love acting too, and you've learned a lot. I know I've learned a little bit from just watching you and reading about you. First role you ever played?
Oh, I think it was in a high school musical where I was an ensemble member in The Music Man. Yeah.
And you had to sing.
Yeah, I had to sing. I was in the choir, and I could carry a tune, you know.
See, this is the Thomas Becker I remember. Me, firecracker, baby, bang, you know. Thomas, nice, low key.
No, I could carry a tune. It was. But in high school, though, if you can walk and breathe air, then the director will go, "Oh my God, it's a guy who can walk and
from
breathe
high
air."
school, you go to Sioux Falls. You graduate from South Dakota State University, the Jackrabbits. Did you do a lot of theater at South Dakota State?
Yeah, that's where I really started cutting my teeth in theater.
Like what?
Gosh. I remember that there was I started auditioning for their summer stock program, and we did a play called The Foreigner by Larry Shue.
I know it.
Yeah.
And I played Ellard a long
did you?
time ago.
Okay, yeah.
Foul work, Ellard. That's right.
Yeah, and I played Froggy.
Yes.
Yeah, Froggy, and just that was. I knew when I was working with, especially with the people I was working with, that's who I wanted to spend my time with. You know, I really wanted to spend my time with.
I've always said that you're only as good as the people you're up there with. Broadcasting, the set, theater, they're just different stages. Yeah. If they're good, they're going to bring you out. You're going to be better.
And it's that way in education too. It's that way in a high school. I found, you know, when you're working with a group of people who are really singly focused on a certain, you know, a few goals, and you share those goals in common, there's a lot you can do.
So you become educated. Shakespeare, you said you read it a long time ago. How'd you get to D.C.?
I had to find a graduate school after South Dakota State. Believe it or not, in South Dakota, there aren't a lot of professional theater opportunities. So I went to the Erta Theater auditions and got latched up with the University of South Carolina, and they had a program in Washington, D.C. that was connected to the Shakespeare Theater in D.C., which is still a lively theater to this day. And the artistic director there was a guy named Michael Kahn. I think he's not the artistic director there, but he's still in DC, I think. But I worked with them as an intern, and then I worked with them for a portion of a season after my internship, and found my way auditioning.
What do you find easier or harder? Shakespeare, serious roles, comedic roles? Because you've done them all.
Yeah. Well, every director has their own style, and one of the hardest roles I've ever played was the one I just did.
That's right.
Which was ridiculous, a combination of Hannibal Lecter and Santa Claus.
Right.
But that was really hard because, that role is a very strange thing. You have to embrace the idiocy of the whole situation. And you also, working with Susan Clement, the artistic director.
At the Blue Barn Theater.
She's a wonderful director. She has a very particular style when it comes to comedy. She might deny that she doesn't have a style, but Susan, you have a style of comedy.
Well, I've always loved Susan. I've had
do
her
too.
on the show here.
Yeah.
I love her. She's one of the best, if not the best.
Yeah, and that trying to find that world where Santa's also a serial killer, but the timing.
The play was called Silent Night of the Lambs, and he played Hannibal Lecter, and he claims it was a cross between Hannibal Lecter and a claymation Santa Claus.
Yeah, it was. I was telling Susan it was the peak of my career.
And Susan claimed the character was, quote unquote, a petulant child.
Yeah.
Now, when I heard that term, I thought of Thomas as I knew him then, and as you're hearing and seeing him now, I went, Thomas, a petulant child?
Yeah.
That's acting.
Yeah, it was really hard to find him, and even on opening night, I hadn't found him yet, but I did, eventually get there, and I'm sure it's on tape somewhere.
I have found in my experiences that you try to grow a little bit every night. Now, there's some nights you come off stage and you're like, man, that sucked. But then there's other times you just try to grow a little bit.
Yeah.
And if you can grow a little bit, and you're not even ready to open when you close, I've always thought.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
I feel the same way. I think every show should be an attempt to make it better than the last show, and
Right.
you want your last show to be the best one.
Right.
And that's what the audience deserves, and that's what you deserve as an actor. You want to grow and get better.
And your students deserve nothing but the best. What'd you tell me? 29 years,
29.
drama, English teacher at Duchesne Academy.
Yeah, I teach American Lit and drama, and I get to teach works like The Grapes of Wrath and Zora Neale Hurston's Their Eyes Were Watching God, and then I get to pull some American playwrights into this mix. I'm in heaven. I just love it there. I'd be crazy to leave. It's just a wonderful place to teach.
And it's not bad that someone you know works there as well.
Yeah, my wife is there. She's been there for I think five years now. Maybe we're going on 5 years. 4. She's in administration and she's the dean. So
Married 30 years,
Yeah.
as you were telling me. What kind of teacher is Thomas Becker compared to the deep thinking, calm, gotta find it actor? What kind of teacher are you?
I wish I could. say that it didn't depend on the day. But yeah, most of the time, I think I'm a good teacher. I really want, and I've found that it's best to try and get the kids to want to learn, to take charge of their own learning, to ask questions, and I don't like to lecture. I don't do that an awful lot.
You know, it's interesting that you say that, because when I was a sports guy on television, I always said I aim my shows at the non-sports fan, because I know they're going to watch. So I tried to make them entertaining and appealing. And it sounds like, in a way, kind of the same way as a teacher. You're just not going to be that Bueller, right?
Yeah, because I'll fall into a monotone if I get up there and start, and you can see their eyes go vacant, and
You know.
yeah. So why do that? And so the best format for me has always been a discussion group, where here's what you were supposed to have read yesterday. Let's see how this goes.
Do you ever get mad?
Yeah.
You do?
Oh yeah. It's one of my biggest problems, is controlling my temper. It is. It really is. And I've found that as soon as I do, I become an imbecile. I can't think clearly. If I get mad at my kids at school or at home, I can't think clearly. I can't say a sentence that makes any sense at all, put it together. And so I try to avoid it, but I do get mad. Yeah, and I get mad at myself. If I'm on the stage sometimes and I'm tripping up over lines, I get mad. My director, Susan, had to pull me back and say, listen, you're getting in the way of yourself. You're getting in the way of your other actors by getting so upset. It helps to take a deep breath.
What do they say? You're always getting in your own headspace, so to speak.
Yeah. And we all do that in life,
Well, I haven't seen you in a long time. I've read about you, won all kind of awards. You are one of, in my humble opinion, if not one of the best, if not the best actor in Omaha. Thanks for coming on the
JJ,
show.
thank you so much.
It's Thomas Becker. He's the guy. Thanks for joining us, our first show of 2025. I'll see you around town.